Hello dear soulmates, welcome to the Honest Academy. Welcome to another interesting tutorial by us. So today we're going to be looking at how to make this beautiful gown. We're going to be looking at analyzing this gown and how to make it. It's quite a very simple and beautiful gown that we can make and rejoice in it, okay? So this gown is a built up, the neckline is built up neckline, and this part here is a net, a mesh, or whatever you choose to have here you can have, but this center is built up neckline. And the dart we're going to use is an armhole princess dart. All right, you can decide to use any dart of your choice so long as it fits you properly, but here we're going to be using armhole princess dart. Now, looking at the length of this, you find out that where the net stops, right, that is where the joining is. But also looking at it properly, you might think that, or one may know that this is not where the actual waist is. This could be like the under bust, but because she's bending down, it looks as if that is where her waist is. So on your own, on our own, you can decide to stop at anywhere, either at the under bust, or make the skirt is a high waist skirt, or at the waist area, okay? So in this case, I might be stopping at the under bust or a little below the under bust, but not at the waistline because this here is looking quite high. All right. So looking at the shoulder, we understand that the back is just a normal back, but then the neckline for the back is also built up so that it can meet up with the front. And then the sleeve is a flay sleeve, which did not go round the armhole. It's from the front middle armhole to the back middle armhole, the same as this part. And then the normal sleeve has a net on it, and then the fabric too, like a tiara sleeve, kind of, right? So you can decide to make the sleeve any um, type of your choice. So the skirt is just a normal skirt. We can decide to drape this part a little to give it that fold. That's this part. And then it was beaded, but we're not going to be doing beading here. If you want to learn how to do this beading, we've done it in a previous video. The link will be in the description box. So we'll be looking at this built up neckline, the upper bodice. For the sleeve, we have a detailed detailed video tutorial on how to cut flays, but we'll still be looking at the sleeve. And then our main focus is on the front, and the dress entirely, everything is just so beautiful. So let's get started. So now I'm going to be working at the front. I'm going to tighten my under bust, right? Depending on your bust size, you can choose to tighten your under bust using um, different numbers. I'm using a small measurement, so I might not be mentioning the amount of tightening because it is not meant to size anybody. It's just a miniature um, body form. But if you choose to know how to tighten your under bust size 38, 39 or thereabouts, you can watch our previous videos and know what to use to tighten your under bust, or simply put, measure your under bust circumference, divide by 4. Wherever it stops, take whatever is remaining and use it to tighten the under bust, right? So I'm going to connect to the armhole. You can use a straight line or a slight curve to connect to the armhole. I'm connecting to the midpoint of the armhole, to the midpoint of the armhole. and I'm going to tighten it. You can use 1 inch, 1.5 or 2 inches to tighten your under bust. But here I'm going to use 1/2 inch to tighten the under bust. Like I said before, this is just a miniature dress form. Okay, so if you're using a bigger body measurement, you can use 2 inches, 2.5, or 1 inch, depending on your bust size. Okay, so I'm going to connect these lines together. I hope you're understanding what we're doing. I hope you're following this way. You don't have to allow it to be too sharp. Using your curve will help you to monitor it very well. So I'm going to connect the other parts. So I'm going to connect these lines to the waistline. You can choose to tighten the waist apart from your using your basic dart. You can choose to tighten it more like I did here, right? And so whatever tightening I took away from here, I'm going to extend it up. In that case, I'll add a little paper so that I can extend it by 1/2 inch and redraw my under bust. I will have to come up from the waist a little so that I can mark the bodice for the. So this is my 1/2 inch, and I'm going to redraw the armhole. I'm going to connect the armhole from this line to where the armhole is. Okay, so I'll have to cut it this way, tracing the lines. You can decide to close here a little so that you'll be able to trace it and trim from directly at the show from the shoulder line this way. Okay, so this is now where your new line starts. Connect it to the armhole. I hope you can hear what I'm saying. Connect it this way and then cut this part out, right? So at this new line that I have drawn, that is where I'm going to cut off the skirt line from. From this new line, this is where I'm going to cut off below the under bust and above the waistline. I'm going to cut off for the upper bust, and then we'll use the remaining for the skirt, the continuation of the skirt. So this is where I'm cutting off. Like I said, this is a personal choice. You can decide to take it down to the waistline. You can decide to keep it at the under bust. This is a personal choice. Okay, so do it the way it works for you. I'm doing it the way it's gonna work for me. Okay, so we're going to be cutting off this part using our new armhole line. So it's just almost the same thing. So while cutting, we're going to trim off the center this way, and this part becomes our new measurement. So the next thing we're going to do is to add paper at this neckline region so that we can trace out our um, built up neckline. I'm going to add paper to extend so that the neckline will be long as built up neckline. So here I've added the paper and I marked the CF line so that I will know this is the straight line. Okay, now for this part, this is the neck point. I want to come up by 1 inch. You can choose to come up by any inch so long as it's not something that will be higher than your neck, depending on how high you want it. You can do 1 inch, 1.5, 2 inches depending on how high you want the built up to be on your neck. Okay, so I'm going to go down. If you're using a bigger measurement, you can come down at this point by half an inch, from this shoulder point backwards by half an inch, but here I'm going to use 1.0.125. Okay, this coming down depends on how loose you want it to be at the neckline. If you want it to be something that will hold very close to your neckline, then there's no need coming down. Right, if you need it to be very close to your neckline, then if you need it to be wide around your neck region, you have to come down more by 1 inch or thereabout, so that from here you're going to connect to the highest point of the neckline. In that case, this place will be adding to the freeness of um, your around your neck region. Okay, so that is the reason for coming back from your neck points, so that it's either you create freeness or you make it more fitted. So from this part, I'm going to connect to the 1 inch on top that I want to connect. And what this means is that here is adding to my neck width, and it's going to make the um, neckline to be loose, a little loose around the neck region. If I don't want it to be loose, I'm just going to take it straight from the neck point so that it will hold properly. But looking at the picture, it looks a bit loose, though it's the looseness is showing at the front and not so at the shoulder side. Okay, at the neck or shoulder region. So it all depends on what you desire, the outcome you desire to see in your outfit. We are analyzing this so that you know how to exactly to go about your own design. Okay, so I can decide to take it up from here or take it straight, but this is where I want it to be. So at the CF side, I can either follow this um my neck point here, straight line, and connect this depending on how you want it, but not something that will have to choke. Now if this will have to get to your jaw or past your jaw, then this part will need to be wide enough to accommodate the area of the jaw, which is wider than the base of your neck. Okay, so if you need it to pass this point, you have to make it a bit loose. So from here now, we're going to connect to where we want it to stop at the front part of our dress, because the front is not supposed to be too tight so that we don't choke. Excuse me. So I will have to determine where I'm connecting this. For certainty, it's not going to be down to this base again, it has to come up. So you can follow this line, take it a bit higher, take it midpoint, depending on what you want. Or better still, you can measure from the base of your neckline to how high you want it to stop at your neckline, at the front of your neckline, and then connect it to that part. I hope this is making sense. Looking at this picture now, because she looks like she's bending forward, you might not be able to know where exactly this neckline stops. Because she's bent forward, it's appearing as if the neckline is touching her jaw. So it's left for you to know where exactly you want this to be. It might not be possible that this is touching her jaw. It might be that the built up neckline is just around the midpoint of her neck. Okay, but because of the position she is in, it's taking a different look. It's just an assumption. Okay, so you've seen people wearing it and you know where you want yours to be. I've shown you where you can possibly keep it, at the base, at the neck point, above the neck point, below the neck point, but not at this actual base of the neckline, not at this point. Okay, so we're going to follow this part and keep it there. We're going to follow this and use a curve to connect it. So this is where it will be, and I'm going to take it down from this point this way. I can even make it a bit higher since this is just the miniature dress, right? So this is how it's going to be. Now, if this is making sense to you, why haven't you subscribed? Why haven't you said something in the comment section like this is making real sense to me? Built up neckline looks so simple, simple, simple. Okay, so here could be a curve, and it could be this way too. It could be whichever style you choose to give it. So when I'm illustrating, I try to give you as many options as possible because I know that we as individuals, we have different tastes, we have varieties. You can choose to do it your own way and not that type that says you must follow it the way it is. Spice it up, even if you want to copy. Spice it, add sugar, add maggi, add whatever, whatever. Just make it look your own unique method, okay? That even the designer might not know that you copied from them. Or they'll have to come to you to look at how you did it. Okay, people. So this is what we have. Now we're going to repeat the same for the back. Okay, we're going to repeat this for the back. We're going to raise this part up by 1 inch and still connect the way we did. So this is the back. The same thing I did at the front, that's what I did at the back here. But this CB line, I raise it up to the same level. But the point is that you're going to come down by ½ inch from this, the same neck level here. You're coming down here by ½ inch. You're using a bigger measurement, but here I'm going to be coming down by 1.25 or 0.25 rather. And I'm going to connect with a slight curve from this point to my ½ inch. If I'm using a bigger measurement, and I'll connect it. Okay, so our cutting will begin from this point. I hope this is clear. So this is front and back. Now I'm going to measure what I have here and use it to know what I'm going to cut at the back so that they will be at the same measurement. Okay, I'll have to measure what is here and trim off for the back. So at this neck region for the front, to get where our net will be, I'm going to come down by ½ inch. If you are using a bigger measurement, you come down by 1 inch from the neck point and then mark the width of the net area. It could be 1 inch, it could be 1.5 inch, depending on what you want to mark there. So here I'm going to be marking 5/8. Going to be marking 5/8. Right, so in between here is where I'm going to connect to get where the net will be. So I'm going to be using a very slight curve to connect this. You can use a straight line, you can use a curvy line, you can use a slight curve depending on what you want. So this is what I am going to cut out and replace it with a different fabric, a net or something. Okay, so with this we are good to go, right? We are good to go for the front part of this dress. The back is just okay the way it is, and then we'll be looking at the sleeve, right? The skirt is just a simple skirt, so let's proceed. Now do not forget that whatever I remove from the under bust as my dart tightening or from the waist or wherever, apart from the upper part which we've added at this point, whatever I remove, I'm going to add it back as sewing allowance, as in together with the sewing allowance when I'm cutting. So in your own case, you can add it back on the paper before cutting, so that you don't make the mistake of forgetting that you have that you need to add back. But while cutting on the fabric, I'm going to add everything to accommodate this that. So whatever you remove, measure it back and add it, no matter how small it is. Now I extended paper to the knee length of the skirt, and I'm going to be tightening the lower part, though the skirt did not get to the knee. So wherever it stops, you need to tighten it, right? So that it doesn't become very loose, since the hip is bigger than every other part below the skirt. So we're going to tighten it. Here I'm going to be using um 3/4 of an inch to tighten the front, right? And at the back uh, CB line, I'm going to be using half an inch and half an inch. So in your own case, you will have to measure your step guide, or you will have to remove 1 inch from the hip measurement and connect to the knee, right? So that it tightens. Or you can minus 6 inches, then distribute the 6 inches accordingly. There are so many ways to go about this. Okay, so this is how I'm going to tighten the lower part. Minus from the hip, okay, and add it. Minus from this part, whatever I have at the hip area, you can minus 1 inch from towards the knee, or measure that part and know what you're going to minus. But measuring might be somehow, because the person will need to walk. So except the person stays in a working position, then you'll be able to know what to minus. All right, but just remove 1 inch from the hip and mark the remaining at the waistline. That will be okay. We have a knee tightening skirt class. Please do well to watch the video and know how to do it. So in this case, we're analyzing how to sew this beautiful dress. Right, so this is my knee area. You can see I have penciled it, so I'm going to pencil this part, these two sides too, the CB side and the SCB, that's side back and center back. But the front, you only shaping the side front. Okay, I hope you understand what I'm doing here. Don't mind the grammar. Just follow the instructions step by step on how to achieve this beautiful dress. This is a small miniature, and that's why I'm not following the measurements judiciously. Okay, if I am to do it in a bigger size, then I would know exactly, I will tell you exactly what to use. So this is a small measurement. So you have to take your own measurements and know what you are to do on it. Okay, but watch the video on transforming your basic skirt to a pencil skirt. You get to understand 3 ways that you will need to tighten the lower part after the hip. Okay, the link is in the description box. Right, so here we have our skirt, and this part too, I wouldn't want. Okay, so mates, now this is the CF for the skirt, and this is around the waist. This is the waistline. Now the dart at the waistline, I want to close it up, so I'm going to cut this from the normal waistline. Okay, and I'll cut this part holding the dart. I'll cut here. You can close it or cut it off entirely. All right, so this is how it is, and I'll close it. Close this front dart. It's remaining this dart. We want to close this dart too, because we do not want the darts at the front. Now this is optional. This is optional. You can have it in front, and use it to create the style line or where the front opening for the skirt will be, or you can still cut the skirt on its own. Okay, so it's a matter of choice. It's a matter of choice, but in this case we don't want the that in front, so this is how it's going to be. Okay, we can decide to cut open for our opening at the front and not allow it to extend upwards. So what we did at the front here, we're still going to do it at the back with the dart, so it is still optional. So let's manipulate the dart. We don't want the dart anywhere, and our dress is still going to fit very well. So here it's a decision. We want to cut this part open because at the upper part we need a style line, or you can still close it up. So whichever way, I'm teaching you that manipulation. Okay, you can decide to close it up or decide to cut it and sew it as your dart. So here I'm cutting it open and I want to sew it as my dart. So this is what we have for the back. We're going to join this part, but the skirt's lower parts will not have any dart. We've closed the dart, and this is how we're going to cut it. On a bigger person, this is still how you're going to cut it. The front will not have any darts and the back will not have any darts. Okay, another way is to measure what you have in the dart and cut it from this part. It will definitely be okay. It will. What I'm showing you is what I've done over and over and over again. Okay, so it's time for us to cut this part open and to cut our dart on it upside down. That is gonna be wrong. So soulmates, here are all the pattern sets, pattern pieces, the skirts, the front, the back, and everything, the net, everything we need. We've cut on the fabric, and then we're going to proceed to joining them together. So the front, I've joined it together. You can see how it is. You're expected to join yours knowing where you cut each one from, and then this is for the back. I'm still going to join them too. Okay, so here is the shoulder for the front. You can see how it is. It has not been joined to the back. We're still going to be joining the front and back shoulders together. You can choose to do it first or before joining other parts of the body. Okay, so we're going to be joining them, and this is what it looks. So for the sleeve, we have a basic sleeve here, and I decided to put a little bit of design on it using a net. All right, and I'm going to cut our peplum flare. The sleeve is actually a 360 peplum, so when cutting, cut 360 into two. Okay, so because this is small, I'm going to cut this into two again, so it will not be up to 360 because we are using a miniature dress form. It's going to be too big on it. All right, so after cutting this, now I'm going to divide it into two and then stir it. The stir is going to make it to stand, right? So if I'm going to stir it. I'm going to stir it. Now, if you're using a normal good fabric, I don't recommend this kind of pepper stay. It has a way of looking somehow on fabric, spoiling the outlook. So I think it's better you use a color gum is better than this, and then you can use wadding. Yes, wadding is going to do a good job and make it look balanced and not looking like something that has water on it. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. So use quality stay and not paper stay. It's not going to be fine. So I'm going to be cutting this flay into two to make it two, and I'll pleat it. Like I said in the analysis, the flay did not go round the sleeve, it stopped halfway. So you know how to fix it um, on the sleeve. It's possible to sew it on the sleeve before attaching, and it's equally good. You can fix your sleeve first, then use needle and thread to attach it to the armhole area, which is what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to use pin to secure it before finally using my needle and thread to tack it properly. Okay, so needle and thread is going to do the job, and then I will use my thread to hold it properly properly. I hope you've learned something from this video. I hope you learned really something from this video. So if you did, please kindly subscribe to this channel. We have a detailed tutorial on how to cut a basic sleeve, just the video before this. Do well to watch it if you do not know how to cut a basic sleeve. What is here is just a basic sleeve. Then cut some parts and replace it with net. It is that simple. Okay, so here we have our flay on the sleeve, and it's looking so beautiful. Okay, so this is just a guideline on how you can go about this design. You can come up with something more beautiful and wonderful than this. All right, so from time to time we'll be bringing you beautiful designs and how to analyze them and how to go about them. If not for anything, you've learned how to draft a built up neckline, analyze the style, know that it's not coming from the waist, cut your flare and fix, cut your basic sleeve, and above all, that manipulation, we do not have that in front, even at the back. So it's something worthwhile. Bye.